Well, hello, Bridge Church and family. Hey, this is Mark again. We are reading through Luke together, right? So as we prepare for Easter, we have challenged and encouraged everyone to read a chapter of Luke each day. Um, there's 4 weeks where we started, so 6 days a week. We'll get you through the 24 chapters of Luke, so that as we move to Easter, we're reading about the resurrection. It's just a great thing that we're doing, that we're talking about, and each week, our goal is to have someone that we bring on to just talk about some of their observations from the Gospel of Luke. Now, if you are on pace, today you will read Luke chapter 9. And here's what I love about Luke chapter 9 is that it's the hinge. Once you get down to verse 51, 52, 53, suddenly Jesus sets his face towards Jerusalem. And from that point on, he is on his way to the cross. And this is where we're going to get into a lot of the parables that we're teaching on as once we pass Luke 9. I think if you haven't started reading Luke yet, this is a good time to jump in, because you can start in Luke 9 and it's a big transition. And so as we move into chapter 10, just know he's on his way to Jerusalem. He has set his face resolutely towards Jerusalem. So before we bring on our guest today, spoiler alert, it's Tim Wagner. We're excited to have Tim sharing something he's learned from the reading of this week. I just wanted to say what an awesome time we had with Nazareth on Sunday night. Nazareth is a comedian that came in. I'll tell you, there just the crowd, the response of he was just funny. But he also did an excellent job of sharing the gospel, interacting with people there. We had guests that we haven't met before that came to the event. And so those of you that invited, those of you that attended, way to go. That was just an awesome, awesome time. By the way, one other thing that we haven't really talked about as much as we probably should have is that on Easter Sunday, we would love to baptize people that have not yet followed the Lord in believers' baptism. So if that's something the Lord is calling you to, went dark. Hopefully I'm still on. Hopefully this is still working. If you are watching, feel free to comment, say hello, join in. But with no further ado, I'm going to bring on Tim Wagner. Tim, hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
All right. Hey, I know some people at the Bridge are still kind of getting to know you. And one thing that I think is crazy about your story is you've lived in a lot of different places and served in churches in a lot of different places. Give us a little rundown. Where, there's everywhere, man, and it almost your life kind of reminds me of that. But catch us up on a few places you've lived and served.
Yeah. So when Tanya and I first got married, we moved to Dallas, Texas, and then Screen Lake, New York, Tampa, Florida, back to Dallas, Little Rock. And then LA. Then from LA, we went back to Texas, Mission Viejo, California, then here to Thousand Oaks. So we've moved a lot in the last couple decades. So
that's crazy. That's crazy. Now, so many people in California just think of the rest of the country as this magical land called back east, right?
Right.
So let's just clarify: Little Rock is in Arkansas.
Yeah, it is. It is. The Mid-South is how they refer to themselves.
The Mid-South.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the Deep South.
Right. The Deep South is that I-10 corridor across to Florida.
That's it. Well, we're glad you're in Newberry Park, Thousand Oaks. We love having you at the Bridge. And I know as we talked a little, you kind of resonated with Luke 7. So I'll just let you talk a little bit. What are some things that you learned as you kind of work through Luke 7?
Yeah, well, it's funny. So Monday I was reading Luke 7, and as I read, there's like these little stories, and you go, how are these things connected? And I kept coming back to a question at the end of each little section. You have the centurion who his servant's about to die. He sends somebody, Jesus, will you come and heal my servant? And you have the Jews saying, well, he's worthy, and like he says, I'm not worthy, don't even bother coming. But you see Jesus heal, and he makes this comment with like comparing the centurion to the Israelites, and he's like, I've never seen such faith like the centurion has, it kind of implying what's wrong with you guys. And there's like no response. The servant is healed, and there's like, there's not this passion for Jesus you would expect. And so then it goes into a story about a man who's died, and they're carrying him out, and Jesus goes over and touches the funeral bier, and everybody's kind of watching to see what happens. And the guy, Jesus calls him back to life, and it says that they're afraid, but their response is not like, look, this guy just overcame death, this could be our redeemer. Their response is like, oh, he's a prophet. And again, there's just not this passion for Jesus that you would expect to see. And then John the Baptizer sends a couple of people. Matthew says that John's in prison, but John the Baptizer sends a couple guys like, hey, should we be looking for somebody else? Because I'm not seeing the things that I'm expecting to see. And you see, like, even Jesus's cousin, the one who God has kind of ordained to be the foreteller of who's coming, is like, is this it? And again, you don't see this passion for Jesus that you would expect to see in God's people. And again, Jesus does this comparison. He goes, like, when I compare all the prophets, John's the greatest we've ever seen, and he still is doubting, and he's comparing to these people, going, and what about you? And again, like, they're just quiet. And Jesus is like, John didn't drink at all, and you said he has a demon. I come and I go eating and drinking, and you say I'm a drunk. Like, either way, you won't accept the people that God is sending your way, and there's just no passion for Jesus. And so the final story in Luke 7 is like, here is a Pharisee. We find out his name's Simon later on, but Simon invites Jesus to eat, and this sinful woman comes into where they're eating and opens up this flask of ointment and begins to cry and wipe Jesus's feet with her hair and this ointment. And the guy goes, oh, he's not a prophet after all. Like, if he was a prophet, he would know what kind of woman this is. And Jesus just kind of speaks right to his heart, and is like, hey, there were two guys, and they each owed a huge debt. And we kind of talking in our terms, like, one owed $130,000 he was going to pay over 30 years at $1,200 a month, and the other one owed $13,000 he was going to pay over 5 years at $250 a month. Both debts were forgiven. Which one do you think would be more thankful? Which one do you think would love more? He goes, well, the guy with the bigger debt. And Jesus makes this comment. He goes, whoever's forgiven little loves little, and the implication is whoever's forgiven much loves much. And so this woman is responding in love because she knows she's been forgiven much. And it's like this passion for Jesus, it comes from understanding our pardon from Jesus. It's that, like, we don't really understand the depth of our salvation until we understand the depths of our sin. And so it's I think, when you read these things together, you go, oh, this makes perfect sense. And Tanya and I were laughing yesterday about a lot of times when I preach, I cry, and I was like, I never thought that my calling in life would be to be the weeping prophet. And she was like, no, you, like, when do you cry? You cry when you talk about the great salvation that we have in Christ. You cry when you see people baptized because like, their life has been transformed and they've given their life to Jesus. Like, those are the things that grab your heart. I often tell my kids, like, hey, we're going to be surprised, when we get to heaven, who's there and who's not there. And that we're there, like it's almost too good to be true. And so I think I read this, and it was kind of this encouraging reminder of, man, Jesus has forgiven me so much, and he's poured out the grace. So it's just, so that's where I'm coming
and I think it's interesting because, a lot of our stories, I know mine is, I grew up in church. I don't think that people would have seen me as a teenager and called me that sinful man, right?
Right.
They said, no, he's a pretty good kid. Right. He's doing a lot of things right. But at some point, even if you grow up as a good kid, and as you grow up without a very dramatic faith story, where God didn't rescue you out of really dark stuff, you need to come to terms with, okay, the stuff that he did rescue from is also dark,
Right.
right?
I mean, Simon the Pharisee, like he needed to be rescued from his self-righteousness, not his sinfulness. But he didn't see that his self-righteousness was still separating him from God.
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, I want to backtrack just a little bit to John the Baptist.
Yeah.
The doubting of John the Baptist is such an interesting part of the gospel story. And when Jill and I went to Israel and Jordan, on the Jordan side, there's a fortress of Herod called Machaerus. And to get there, you have to walk up this huge hill. It's the place where John the Baptist was imprisoned and eventually beheaded. And it's interesting because as you walk up, you pass this little cave that you walk in, and you begin to realize, this wasn't like a cell in a dungeon. It was a cave, most likely where he was imprisoned. And you just walk in there and say, wow, this is a guy that it's almost like no wonder he doubted, right? Because he was just stuck there and was not being rescued, and he would not be rescued. But as you say, of all the men born of women, there's none greater than John the Baptist, right? I mean, you see that. And even he doubted. And the reason I bring that up is that I think if we're honest, we all doubt at times, right? There's a reason this is a journey of faith. And I think it's important. This is a good time to bring up that you mentioned in church doing a Wednesday night group to just explore.
Yeah.
We're about out of time, but why don't you give us a quick thumbnail of what that Wednesday night group will be like?
Yeah, it's basically to go through the story of God. We just, in the course of about 10 weeks, we'll go through the whole story arc of the Bible, understand kind of the bad news, the sin part, in order for the good news to make sense. But it will give you kind of the continuity of how the Bible fits together and what the Bible teaches and what we need to have a relationship with God. And so for people who are doubting, or they don't know the story of the Bible, or they haven't made a decision yet about what they're going to do in terms of, am I going to trust in Jesus? Like, it's a great opportunity for folks to kind of come explore and figure out, like, what is it that God's asking of me, and how do I have a relationship with him?
Oh, that's perfect. So if you know nothing about the gospel, if you know nothing about church or following Jesus, this sounds like a perfect thing to go to.
Yeah.
I would also say, if you've been in church and maybe you are struggling with doubt, this would be a perfect thing to go through. Or if you have a friend that's in either of those, it's a good thing to go to along with your friend, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So if you're interested in that, let us know Sunday. You can comment. This is both on Facebook and YouTube, so you can comment. We'll check the comments on either video, or you can reach out to one of us through the Bridge website, and we would just love to. And that's bridgechurch.us. But we'd love to help you understand how you can connect with that kind of study. So hey, if you're reading Luke, keep moving forward, right? If when I started saying, hey, you should be on chapter 9, you're like, oh, I'm on chapter 3. That's okay. Just keep going at your own pace. If you haven't started, again, today, just jump into chapter 9. It's you've already heard chapter 7, right? So, so just jump into chapter 9, and then you're going to be on the road to Jerusalem with Jesus for the rest of the book. So anyway, thank you, Tim, for sharing your thoughts and your time with us today. And God bless you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you Sunday, if not sooner. Take care.